Welcome back to the All Chat channel. My name is Jack Dawes, and this is everything that you need to know about the 2024 LEC Winter Split Playoffs. We're just going to jump right into the first matchup, Team Heretics versus Team BDS. Now, Team Heretics ended in 7th place with a record of 4-5, and Team BDS, their opponents, ended in 2nd place with a record of 7-2. That's the same record as G2, you'll notice, but they did lose the head-to-head, which makes them sole 2nd place. But let's talk a little bit about Team Heretics. They have wins over the 3 teams below them. So that's 10th place Carmine Corp, 9th place Rogue, and 8th place Giant X. And then their 4th win is against the 3rd place SK Gaming that came earlier on in the split. Their roster is Wonder, Yankos, Perks, Flackid, and Kaiser. So a lot of people are jokingly calling this team G3. They have the whole top side, Wonder, Yankos, and Perks from the famous 2019 G2 roster. And then they also have Flack at AD Carry, who played on G2 in the past as well. And then they brought in Kaiser Support, who came from the failed Vitality Super Team from last year. I don't have a lot to say about this team. They beat the teams below them, plus another win. They have under a 50% win rate. You'd expect with the names that are on this team that they would be higher up than this. Some people going into the split had them a lot higher. Some people had them actually lower. They've ended up pretty much middle of the pack. So there's not too much to say. I think Perks is underperforming. I think Wonder and Yankos still look pretty good, and Flackett and Kaiser have their moments as well. But there isn't anything about this team that I'm really excited about. You can find highlight moments, you can find good plays that they make, but there's nothing about this team that screams title contender to me. So let's talk about Team BDS. They're 7-2. Their only losses, interestingly, are a week 1, day 1 loss to G2, who ended up taking first in the split, and then a week 3, day 3, last day of the split, loss to Carmine Corp, who are in 10th. So they've lost to the first place team and the 10th place team. Their roster is Adam top, Sheo jungle, Nuke mid, Ice 80 carry, and Lebrov support. This team I really like. I think that they have a lot going for them. I'm really excited about their underdog story. And the players that you should really be looking out for are Adam, Nuke, and Lebrov, I think. A lot of people have Adam as one of the best top laners in the LEC right now. He's continuing to play his god picks. Garen, Olaf, Darius, and Set. Those picks helped them qualify for Worlds play-ins last year in their best of 5 against North America's Golden Guardians, which they won. He's continuing to play those. He's got some Cassante under his belt, and the picks don't look gimmicky. They look like they're working. So he's an exciting player to watch. They're an exciting team to watch. Nuke has been surprisingly solid in the mid lane. I believe he has the 2nd highest damage percent of any player in the LEC right now, which means that he is, for his team, he's putting in the highest amount of damage over their 9 games so far. And he has the 2nd highest overall damage percent for a team, for a player on a team in the LEC right now. So he's really putting in the work. And then Lebrov, I think as well, he's been kind of a sleeper pick down in support. A lot of people didn't have super high expectations of him coming into this split, but he's been really fantastic. He's had some really key Blitzcrank games. I think he's 3-0 on the pick right now. And he's just had some really pivotal moments. So definitely look out for this team. I think this series is going to be a quick 2-0 for BDS. I know that a lot of people have Team Heretics winning, and I think a lot of people are looking for this to be a close series. I don't think it's going to be. I know Team Heretics is full of star power, but I think BDS is just going to take this one pretty quickly. I don't think it's going to be terribly close, unless Heretics have done something to massively improve over the last week or so. But let's get into the second series. Second series is Giant X versus G2. Giant X comes in 4-5. They have wins over 10th place Carmine Corp, 9th place Rogue, over a 6th place Team Vitality, and a 4th place Mad Koi. So their wins are a little bit more spread out. They do have wins over both teams below them, but then they also have wins over a couple other teams, which is a good sign. It's not just the teams below them, which is nice. And then their roster: Otawamne, Peach, Jackies, Patrick, and Ignar. This is another team that, while they have a couple decent wins against Mad and Vitality, I'm not expecting a lot. I think that they're also going to get 2-0'd by G2. We'll talk about G2 here in a second, but I don't think that they have particularly favorable matchups in any of their lanes, and there's no player on this team that I've been super excited for or thinks has the potential to really solo carry this team past G2. So definitely keep an eye out for Otawamne. He has a lot of experience, so that can absolutely show up in playoffs. Patrick is known for being a pretty stable AD carry. He could absolutely turn it on for playoffs as well. Ignar is known for his engaged support style, and so if he gets those picks, there's a good chance that he can do some damage as well. But I'm a little bit worried about Peach compared to the other junglers in the league, and I'm definitely worried about Jackies, especially into the Caps matchup. So let's talk about G2. They're 7-2. They're in solo first place. They only have losses to Rogue in week 1 and Vitality in week 2, which, as a reminder, was the week that Vitality went 3-0. They started off 0-3, and then they had that big week 2 3-0 week, and G2 was one of the teams that lost to them that week. G2's roster is Broken Blade, Yike, Caps, Hansama, and Mickey. They're running it back from last year. This team had huge expectations going into Worlds last year, just also as well as all of LEC, huge expectations. They didn't quite live up to them. I think people also expected that they might go 9-0 this split, and they haven't done that. So they've proven that they can falter, but I don't expect them to lose a series to Giant X. I think they have better players in every lane. I think Caps has looked really insane recently. He's had some pretty hard carry performances. We've seen Broken Blade be able to play tanks and carries top. And he's also had some interesting off-meta picks like the Vladimir that we just saw. Yike, similar story. He's played his fair share of tank junglers. He's played Maokai. Historically, he's played Sejuani. I don't believe he's played it so far this split, but picks like that. But then he's also known for his carried champs like Viego. He played a couple Lilia games, which is kind of a hybrid, I would say. That looks like a really strong pick. He looks very proficient on Lilia. And then Hansama and Mickey X, they're a fantastic bot lane. Hansama got that Pentacle just recently and has the highest damage percent on the team, so not really worried about him. And then Mickey X has also been looking really good. He's been looking really flexible. He's pulled out the Zyra, which no one else has done, and then he's been able to play both tanky engage supports as well as more enchanter style supports. So I think this team has pretty much positive matchups in every lane, and I think G2 will also quickly 2-0 Giant X. But let's talk about some of the more interesting matchups. Team Vitality versus SK. That's going to be the first matchup of Sunday. Vitality coming in is 4-5 as well. They have wins over 3 of the 4 bottom teams in 10th place Carmine Corp, 9th place Rogue, and 7th place Team Heretics. But they also have that win over G2 in the second week where they went 3-0. And their lineup is Photon, Douglas, Vithio, Karzi, and Hillisang. This team, to me, has been really inconsistent so far. They started out 0-3, then they had a 3-0 week, and ended with a 1-2 week, which is how they ended up at 4-5. So they've been a little all over the place. They've shown that they can go on hot streaks, they can take wins, but I'm not convinced. Vithio, I think, has played a really large part in why this team has the wins that it does. I think Photon is not having a terribly good split. He pretty much only has wins on Cassante. Douglas is looking decent. He plays engaged junglers, tank junglers, and is mostly just looking to make things happen for the team. So I'm not expecting him to all of a sudden pull out any carry champs. I think he's mostly going to be playing Maokai, Rel, that kind of thing. But Vithio is really the interesting player on this team, I think, because in that week 2 where the team went 3-0, I think he was a big part of that. He had some carry performances on Akali and Ahri. And I think going into playoffs, we might see him pick more interesting things like the Kaisa that he just picked. And I think there's a potential for him to really pop off in playoffs and put in some work. Karzi and Hylissang as a bot lane has also been interesting. I think Hylissang is not having his best split. Obviously, he could turn it on for playoffs. He's a very veteran player, so I wouldn't put it past him, but I wouldn't say he's having the best split right now. And then Karzi, he's also been a big damage dealer for this team, but it feels more like he's doing a good job at capitalizing on what his team is setting up for him, and less like he's making these plays happen that are going to win the team the game. So I think really take a look at VTO. Karzi will be a big damage dealer, but I'm a little bit worried about their top side. And then SK Gaming, on the other hand, they're 5-4. They have somewhat expected losses to the two top teams in G2 and BDS, but also fell to Team Heretics in the first game of week 2 and gave KC their first win of the split on day 2 of week 3. Their roster is Irrelevant, Isma, Niski, Exakick, and DOS. So this team is really interesting as well because they kind of did the opposite of Team Vitality, where they started out 3-0, huge expectations. I think that they were 4-2 or 5-1 after the second week. Yeah, it must have been 4-2. 4-2 after the second week, and then they had a 1-2 week to end 5-4. So this team has might be falling off a little bit, but it's also kind of hard to say. I like this team a lot. I think that they have some positive matchups as well. I think the main person you need to look at on this team is also the mid laner, Niski. He's really proving why he's been a staple of competitive league for so long now. He's making Isma look really good. I think Isma looks like he's having a pretty decent split, and I give a fair amount of that credit to Niski. Irrelevant started out in the top lane looking really solid, and then has kind of petered off over the split and not looked as 1v9 as he did in the first week. And then Exakick and DOS, I thought, have looked better than I expected. I expected them to come in as not one of the better bot lanes. I don't know if you would say that they're a top bot lane, but I think they've exceeded expectations. So they're definitely serviceable. And Exakick has the unique honor of being the only Lucian in the West to have a win on Lucian. So out of 14 games, he has the one win. So that's, maybe that means something, maybe it doesn't. But this series, I think, is going to be the first one where it's going to be pretty close. I do have SK Gaming taking it. I think it's going to be a 2-1. But there's absolutely upset potential. It really could be a 2-0 in either team's favor as well. But I do think it's going to be a 2-1 for SK Gaming. And then the last series, Fnatic versus Mad Koi. Fnatic is coming in 5-4, so just over that 50% win rate. They've beat all 5 of the teams below them and lost to all 4 of the teams above them. So they are really right in the middle. It's hard to get a more middle of the pack score than that. Their roster is Oscarinin in the top lane, Razork jungle, Humanoid in the mid lane, Noah, and June in the bot lane. This team, for me, really centers around Razork and Humanoid, and specifically Humanoid. He has the highest damage share of any player in the LEC. He's having a really good split. He's looking like one of the best, if not the best, mid laners. I think he's really going to be doing damage this playoffs. We've seen clips of Humanoid. We've seen games or clips, however you've seen him before, of Humanoid when he's in top shape, and he can compete internationally too. So if he can turn it on for playoffs, I think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. And then Razork in the jungle, he's also a big playmaker. He won't be doing a majority of the damage, but he's a playmaker for the team, so he'll make things happen. Oscarinin, I think, has been having an okay split. He's not super impressed, but not upset too much at his performance. He came in as a rookie last year and had a pretty disappointing debut, but then has really built himself up over the last 2 years and is now I would say, pretty solid LEC top laner. So not too worried about Oscar, but I don't think that he's going to be the driving force in their wins either. And then Noah and June, they're not bad. I expected more from them. I expected this Korean bot lane duo to have a lot more influence over the game than they have been. So I don't think that they're bad by any means. I think that they'll be able to play fine in playoffs, but I don't know that they're the ones who are going to make the difference. I think, like I said before, it's going to come from Humanoid and Razork. So I think their bot lane is kind of fine. And then Mad Koi is the last team. They're also 5-4. They have losses to all three top teams in G2, BDS, and SK. And then their other loss is to Giant X, which was on week 3, day 2, interestingly. Their roster is Mirwin, Elyoya, Frescawi, Supa, and Alvaro. And to me, this is the most interesting team, and this is the most interesting matchup. So just working our way top down, if you haven't seen the Mirwin clips, go check out the Mirwin clips. This guy picked Varus and Fiddlesticks top this most recent weekend, and he looks like he's getting the team on board with his picks as well, which is, to me, one of the most interesting things about this team is that they're willing to give such big chances to their rookie players. So Mirwin has a crazy champ pool. He's playing stuff that no one else is playing. I don't know that the picks are particularly good. I believe they lost both the Varus and the Fiddlesticks game. But he's putting up big damage numbers. He's the second highest damage dealer on the team, which is unique for a top laner. He's a really interesting player to look at. I think the top lane matchup between Oscarinen and Mirwin is going to be really interesting because Oscarinen tends to be a very standard pick meta champs top laner, and Mirwin is the opposite, where he's going to pick whatever he wants and try and surprise you. So I think that's going to be a really interesting matchup to look at during the series. Then Elyoya in the jungle, he's the veteran that this whole team was built around. Starting off the split, it looked like he was the one who had to make plays for this team to win. Pretty much if he got ahead, they would win, and if he didn't get ahead, they would lose. But later on in the split, people tended to look like they had more agency on this team. So Supa and Alvaro were stepping up, Mirwin was stepping up, even Frescawi in some moments was stepping up. So I don't think that Elyoya is so on his own anymore as he was at the start of the split. So I expect him to have a little bit of the pressure off of him and still perform really well. Frescawi really is the weak point of this team in my mind, and the player I'm most worried about, especially going up against Humanoid. I don't think Frescawi has been bad. I think he actually has been better than people's expectations, but I'm afraid for the Humanoid matchup. I think Humanoid is playing really well right now, and I don't know that Frescawi is going to be able to match that. So I think that's really the biggest gap that we have right now. And then Supa and Alvaro in the bot lane, both of these players have been really surprising to me. I was not super on board at the start of the split. I thought that they weren't really doing much. But as the split has gone on, they've taken on their own agency, like I mentioned earlier. And I think especially Alvaro has really been making things happen around the map with Elyoya. He's been great at making picks. He's been great at setting up plays. I think he's been having a really good split. And Supa started off the split with a pentakill against KC, and has shown that he's a really solid AD carry. They've had 2v2 moments bot lane where they've been getting kills. They've been holding their own. They don't have to rely on Elyoya. So I think this bot lane is legit. I was afraid at the start of the split that they were not legit and that it was a kind of a fraud moment, but I think they are. I think they're legit. So Fnatic versus Mad Koi. I do have it going 2-1 to Fnatic. It's really hard for me to count out Fnatic in games like this. I still think Mad Koi has a lot to prove. They seem very flexible. They seem like they have a lot of unique picks. I'm just not confident that those picks are going to win them the game yet. It's not like G2, where G2 takes these crazy picks and then uses them to win the game. I think Mad Lions Koi is still trying to figure that out. So I have Fnatic beating Mad Koi 2-1. I think no matter what way this series goes, it's going to be a 2-1. I don't think it's going to be a 2-game stomp. I think it's going to be a 3-game series. But if you have Mad Koi winning, I wouldn't be upset with you. I would love to see them win, actually. I just think that Fnatic is going to take it. So running it back from the top real quick, we have a 2-0 for Team BDS over Team Heretics, a 2-0 for G2 over Team Giant X, a 2-1 for SK Gaming over Vitality, and a 2-1 for Fnatic over Mad Koi. I think it's going to be a really fun playoffs, and I guess we'll see how this ends up being after this weekend. That's about it for me. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like. Please leave feedback in the comments as well. I want to try and do one of these for each of the upcoming playoffs, so letting me know what you liked and what you didn't like would be awesome. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and check out all of our social media at allchatlol on all platforms. And thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll catch you later.